My sister Sarah has a messy love life, divorced with 2 kids, now dating Rick, a guy with 3 baby mamas, one of whom he cheated on Sarah with. And she's now pregnant with his 4th kid. I invite Sarah and her kids to my wealthy in-laws' lake house, like last year, but Sarah insists Rick and all his kids come too. I refused, and now. So, a little background before I get into the situation. My sister, let's call her Sarah, is in her mid-30s, and I'm almost 30, RIP to my 20s. Growing up, Sarah was always the more difficult one between us. Not necessarily in a bad way, but she always seemed to make things more complicated than they needed to be. She was the one who pushed boundaries, tested rules, and seemed to thrive in chaos. I, on the other hand, have always preferred a more stable and predictable life. Sarah got married pretty young and had 2 kids with her now ex-husband. Their marriage was rocky, and they were separated for quite some time before officially divorcing last year. It was a messy breakup, but in the end, I was glad she was moving on. That is, until she introduced us to Rick. Now, Rick is a whole situation. He has 3 kids with 3 different moms and, to be honest, isn't exactly the most responsible person. When Sarah first started seeing him, I was skeptical. He seemed like one of those guys who peaked in high school or college, and his entire personality revolves around whatever sport he used to play. He was actually on track to be a pro athlete but never quite made it, the real kicker. The most recent of Rick's kids was conceived while he was dating my sister. Yep, he cheated on her, and instead of walking away, she decided to stay. And now she's pregnant with his 4th child, making her his 4th baby mama. It's honestly exhausting to even think about. I've made it clear to Sarah that I don't agree with her choices, but at the end of the day, it's her life. If she wants to deal with all that, fine. But that doesn't mean I have to rearrange my own life to accommodate it. My in-laws are well off and very generous. They own multiple properties, and one of their newest ones is a gorgeous lake house in a really nice area. It has everything: jet skis, water trampolines, a big boat for tubing, a water slide, basically the ultimate summer getaway. Last year, I invited Sarah and her 2 kids, my niece and nephew, to come with us. It was a great time, and I wanted it to be a tradition that they could look forward to every summer. They got along well with my in-laws, and my husband and I were happy to have them there. Fast forward to this year. My husband and I were making plans for our annual trip when Sarah casually mentioned that she, Rick, and all of Rick's kids would be coming along this time. Hold up. What? I told her that wasn't the plan. I had invited her and her 2 kids, just like last year. She got upset and said that since she's with Rick now, his kids are part of the family too, and it wouldn't be fair to exclude them. Here's the thing, I don't even know these kids. I have never met them, not even once. They have 3 different mothers, and I don't know them either. It just feels weird and inappropriate to invite a bunch of minors I've never met to a house that isn't even mine. Plus, let's be real, this lake house is not a simple backyard pool. The activities there can be dangerous. Jet skiing, tubing, and even just the water trampoline can lead to injuries. What if one of these kids gets hurt? What if one of their moms decides to sue? I don't know these people well enough to gauge how they would react in a situation like that. Also, my in-laws are already being extremely generous in allowing my family to visit. Adding for more people that my husband and I barely know just seems like pushing it. If it were my house, it would still be a no, but at least I would have full control over the situation. In this case, I'm essentially bringing guests to someone else's property, and I don't feel comfortable extending the invitation to people I don't know. I explained all of this to Sarah, and she was furious. She accused me of treating Rick's kids unfairly and said that if all of them weren't invited, then none of them would be coming. She said they are a family unit now and need to be treated as such. Look, I get the idea of wanting to blend families and create unity, But Sarah and Rick aren't even married. They've been together for less than 2 years, and their entire relationship started off on a foundation of infidelity. It's not like I'm excluding her kids. I've always been close to them, and I genuinely wanted them to be part of this tradition. But suddenly, because I won't also accommodate Rick's kids, my niece and nephew have to miss out too. That just doesn't sit right with me. My husband is completely on my side. He doesn't think it's fair for my sister to expect us to suddenly absorb for extra people into our plans, especially since they aren't even part of our extended family. My in-laws would likely be uncomfortable with it too, though they're too polite to say anything directly. Sarah is now saying that I'm being elitist because I'm judging Rick's background and making assumptions about his exes, which, okay, I am a little bit, but can you blame me? The man has 4 kids with 4 different women and barely seems to be holding his life together. She said I'm looking down on her and her new family just because they don't come from money like my in-laws do. But this has nothing to do with money. It's about boundaries and practicality. At the end of the day, I feel like I set a reasonable boundary. I invited my sister and my niece and nephew, just like last year. I never agreed to hosting an entire extra group of kids, some of whom are teenagers with completely different needs and expectations than younger kids. I hate that my niece and nephew are now missing out because of my sister's stubbornness, but I also refuse to be manipulated into inviting people I'm not comfortable with.